This lesson looks at fractions as division problems and goes along with CPM Chapter 6, Lesson 1.2. Many of you have already made the connection that a division problem can be written as a fraction, and if you're in my class, we've talked about how that fraction bar really means to divide. So this lesson should be some review for you. It's also important to note that as we go through these problems, we're looking at dividing things into equal groups. For example, if people are sharing pizza, those two people might not eat the same amount of pizza, but for our problems, we're going to assume that they get an equal amount to start with, and then they'll go from there, because you never know if they will want an equal amount, and you don't want anybody to be upset. So let's look at this problem. 3 friends have 5 pizzas to share equally. How much will each person receive? Go ahead and solve this on your own, and what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to draw a diagram, and I want you to write it as a fraction to help you solve it, and then I'll show you how I would do it. First, I'm starting with my diagram, and you'll notice I did rectangles instead of circles, even though I'm talking about pizzas, because I find that it's easier for me to quickly sketch my 5 pizzas this way. You can do it however you want, but it's an easy way to show your work. Okay, so I'm starting with that, and I even divided it into 3 sections to represent the 3 people. Now I'm going to write the fraction. Okay, as I write my fraction, I have 5 pizzas being divided by 3 friends. And you notice that I wrote the label on there. That's important because you want to make it, your label can help you determine what you're dividing, because you're dividing the pizzas by your friends or the friends. You're not going to divide friends by pizzas. Okay, think about what you're dividing into what. Okay, always include the label, and then you can simplify it. And as we simplified it, we took our 5 pizzas by 3 friends, wrote it as 5 over 3 because you have 5 pizzas divided by 3 friends, and simplified it so that each person receives 1 2/3. And you notice I said pizza per friend, and that's going to help you when we get into rates. For example, think about a car. When you have a tachometer, which tells you about the revolutions per minute, okay, this car has about 1100 revolutions per minute. That means it goes around that many times. Okay, you're used to miles per hour. You don't have hours per mile unless you're sitting in traffic and you're stuck and you're like, oh, I've been going 3 hours and I've only gotten 1 mile. That's a rare case. Okay, miles per hour. Unless you're not in the United States, then you're looking at kilometers per hour. It's also important to notice that when we're talking about revolutions per minute or miles per hour, kilometers per hour, we're actually looking at a more advanced division concept called rates, but we'll get into rates at a little bit later time. Okay, go ahead and try one more problem. Mr. Funk has 13 pieces of licorice left after a class project. 5 students helped clean up the room. How many licorice will each student receive? Again, draw a quick picture, super fast, and then show me it as a fraction. The first thing that I did is I drew out red lines here as my 13 pieces of licorice, and then in different color I circled every piece that each person would start with. So I'm saying person A in green here would get this piece and this piece. So they're starting with 2 pieces, and each person gets 2 pieces depending upon what color they have. And then I have 3 pieces left, and what I can do is I can split those pieces into 5 smaller pieces so each person receives that. So after they're done, each person will receive the 2 that they've started with, such as this one and this one for person A, and then they'll receive 1/5 of each of the remaining pieces, so that then they receive 2 3/5 pieces. And many of you will solve it that way. Realistically, Mr. Funk is mean, he'd probably eat it all on his own, but that's if he decided to give those 13 pieces to the 5 students.